Hello and welcome to a Talking Told podcast. I'm your host Teddy, and today I'm being joined once again by
Aiden.
And today we're going to be talking about the tmnt 2003 Season 1 Episode 13, The Notes from the Underground Part 1. So, what do you think about this episode briefly?
Well, this episode briefly, Teddy, is just phenomenal. It's great, alright? It's just amazing. Like, I was not expecting this at all. And I know I say this every single episode, but it just keeps getting better and better, honestly. And this episode is a real, proper, in-depth, insight to the whole world of this series in itself, really. Like, I was just amazed on how much presence and so much thought was gone into this episode. This was just a great episode, down to earth.
Yeah, I have to say that for me, this episode, I don't think this whole story arc, it gets worse after this episode, but this episode right here is something which I would say is what I always think of when I think of Turtles. It just has everything I want and need from a Turtle show. Yeah, one of the things which I absolutely like about this episode, the designs are on point for the whole show, animation was perfect, adventure, comedy, action, everything about it. And then there's also a lot of other personal reasons for this one. I like this as well. But, oh god, I like this one so much. Okay, yeah, so starting this episode off, we do start with Mikey watching a horror movie, and that's when he touches some crystals, and basically some monsters come alive. What do you think about that scene?
It was nice to see the turtles back in the lair again, doing, turtle stuff, and of course, Mikey being Mikey, he has to just touch everything that Donnie's doing. Like, Donnie's playing around with some crystals that we have no idea what they can do, and of course, hell, all we could have known is that those crystals could have been explosive, and Mikey decides to put the two and two together, and then boom. But thankfully that wasn't the case, but just seeing Mikey being Mikey, messing around with stuff that he has no idea what it is, it was really unique. It was just really funny just to see him mess around with potentially dangerous crystals from the underground.
Yeah, I mean, the whole crystal thing, I do like how, with this scene, they do really set up the whole horror elements and how Mikey doesn't like it, and they really do play into it with all the very cliche type of stuff. And I must admit, I absolutely love Mikey's constant line in this episode about how man was never meant to tamper with things. Absolutely love that line. And I do think that, even going into, the crystal bits where he's touching the crystals and he goes to Don and goes, ooh, I just love all the, horror type stuff and all that. But yeah, that's when the Turtles do find out that there's something in the sewers, and they go out to discover what it is, and they're searching a hole in the wall in the sewers. What do you think about that scene?
That scene was really cool. I liked seeing the turtle hovercraft again. That was pretty cool to see. Just seeing how they can just zoom around the sewers like so quickly. And as well, I gotta say, I don't know how they can go from stealth mode to so quickly. Like, they just say, okay, we gotta get into stealth mode, and Donnie flicks a switch and boom, they're in stealth mode. Like, everything runs quieter for some reason, and somehow that's stealth mode.
Yeah, I don't really understand that either. I must admit, I do like how these sewers looked in this episode. I don't know why, but they just had a different kind of feel to it than all the other episodes, with how much darker it was. And also the turtles just standing in the water. I don't know why, but I really did like that in this episode. Or was that just me?
It's not you, mate.
Oh, great. What do you think about the scene where the turtles are looking in the hole in the wall?
I gotta say, it just brought back the horror vibes, always the horror vibes, the traditional cliche horror vibes. Like, for instance, Mikey was that cliche horror vibe saying, oh my gosh, this is not right, guys, this is where the person dies, the first person's always the person to go. And I'm like, yeah, he's right about that. But honestly, I gotta say, Mikey just nails it every single time with the movie cliche and everything else. But I gotta say that scene was just perfect in every way. I don't really have much things to say about that scene. It was just a nice scene to start off with. It showed there was something dangerous in the sewers. It was definitely a formidable force for the turtles to come at, and I just gotta say I loved it. And I gotta love the eyes, the red eyes appearing from the darkness. That was just something unique that the traditional horror movie style approach to introducing an unknown monster or being lurking in the sewers, watching the turtles, it was just, I don't know what else to say, but it was just perfect.
Yeah, I don't really know what to really say about it. I just think everything about it was just on point. I don't think with this episode, there's so many great things to love about this one. And I do think that this is like a really clear example where you just love it, but you can't exactly put, like, you just can't give like a exact reason why, just because there's just so many great things all going at once. I love how Donnie is actually getting really involved with doing chemistry and stuff like that. And the Mikey stuff with him being scared. There's just so many great things about this scene. And yeah, I must admit, this is one of the reasons why I'm really glad we're doing the part episodes in individual parts. This way I can actually express my excitement about, like, this little scene here. Um, but yeah, that's when we go into the next scene where Donnie is trying to discover what the crystal is, and Spin tells them basically you should just go down to the caves and get some more answers, and they do a little montage getting things ready. What do you think about that scene?
The montage scene was alright. We got to see Turtles suiting up and Donnie grabbing the crystals and all of that. But when they go down into the sewers, I gotta say this. I've got to love Mikey's impression of Master Splinter. Like the amount of effort it takes to impersonate Master Splinter. That voice was just spot on. I gotta say, he just made that impression so good of Master Splinter. I thought they just used Master Splinter's voice just on Mikey for that one particular scene. I'm like, nah, that's Mikey's voice. He's got it down so well for Master Splinter, and I just gotta shout that out because it was just so good.
Yeah, I have to say that the Master Splinter bit, I was really surprised. I'm also really surprised when actors are able to do a voice, or I'm also really surprised that when actors are able to do an impression while doing a voice, and I think that's always really impressive. Um, I must admit, with this scene with Donnie, like, we're experimenting on the crystals, or, no, it wasn't the crystals, it was the rocks, and using the acid, I love that as well for some reason, don't know why. But when they're doing the montage thing, getting ready, again, I loved it. I don't have much of a reason why. But the one thing I should do want to say here is the fact that at the beginning of this episode, the whole reason why they're even going down there is because Donnie or Mikey pressed the crystals together. Why in this scene is Donnie pressing the crystals together if he knows that that's what's caused the whole problem? That's all I've really got to say about that little scene. He's supposed to be a smart one, right?
Yeah, I did have my doubts about that. Like maybe they still didn't know what was the cause for the monsters to appear, but as the audience, we know. But as the audience, we know the crystals have caused this problem, and the turtles may not know what's causing the problem, so they're just blindly going around putting the crystals together and sending off a massive beacon to these weird monsters that are somehow attracted to these crystals. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, it just seemed like very weird if, like, that's what, like, caused all this to happen in the first place. Why do you start doing it again? But yeah, then in the next scene, we do see the turtles going into the undergrounds, where we do see that this, like, abandoned subway thing has been abandoned for years, and is basically could collapse in any second. And that's when we do get our first monster who brings down the whole cave. What do you think about that scene?
This has got to be one of my most favourite scenes in this episode. Like, I just loved how they managed to get the look of an abandoned subway. Like, I just loved the lighting, the environments, the decay of the surrounding environments, the tunnel itself collapsing, the animation, and just the overall design was just spot on. Like I just loved how the animators and creators were so creative in developing this abandoned scene. Like they've got the vines hanging down, they've got the old rail cars on the tracks, the old support beams, and of course the animation when they collapse in the cave in was incredible to see. And despite the fact this was all this was like drawn out and put together piece by piece, scene by scene, was just it's such a huge effort, and I just love how they've just put every ounce of it into this episode in general. Like this episode was just beautifully put together.
You have to say that for the scene with the subway stuff, I don't think I have anything really too great to say about it in terms of like I mean just like with like what you said about the animation and stuff like that. I thought it was all fine, but the thing that like really got me that was like, yeah, this is amazing, was the fact that this more or less like expanded the whole universe, and I think that's what this whole story arc does really well, is expand the whole universe with and just expand it to be much bigger than what it normally is. I mean, with the last episode, they did a great job of that, with expanding up to having superheroes in it, and with it feeling natural. And this one is really showing like a lot of history, with stuff happening like the 1900s in that universe, and then also the monster stuff. I just really like how it really sets up like a big history for this version of Turtles, which they could explore. And I must admit, that's really great. What do you think about the monster scene where he comes in and roars and the whole cave comes crashing down? What do you think about that scene?
That was pretty cool. I gotta say, I am liking these new characters, these new monsters, if you will. Like these are so unique. Like the stone monster has probably got to be my favorite. Like he can just barge through stone and can take a beating. Honestly, this guy looks like a tank. If tanks could walk, that would probably be it, to be honest with you. But yeah, that scene was
Yeah,
just absolutely awesome. Just seeing the monster come out in his full form and just bring down the cave, and it was such a unique scene that you don't get these days.
yeah, I do think that with this scene, I don't really know what really to say about this. It's just more that I like this scene. I just have like a lot of questions about it, because even though the turtles are not supposed to make any noise and stuff like that, and Mikey does sneeze and it doesn't really do much, but the monster was walking around, so that would easily, and I can imagine he'll probably walk with quite a loud presence. So I'm quite surprised he didn't like make this whole thing collapse beforehand. And then the next thing which I really got to say about all this, which is something which I'm still been wondering for a while now, is that if these beams were holding up the subway and stuff like that from collapsing, then wouldn't that do like something to the surface in terms of like bringing down like a street or something like that? That's something that's always been playing on my mind. Well, I don't know if it did affect the upper world because of how it was supporting it, and yeah, it's always really annoying me for that reason. But yeah, but then the next scene after that, which I know that it's just a me scene, where to see Vito's set up base and all that. There are two absolutely great scenes from Raph, where he's just yelling at Mikey, saying that they're running from a collapsing tunnel. I absolutely love how Raph was yelling that bit. And then when they set up the camp bit, Raph says, "You know me." I don't know what it was about it, but the way that he said "you know me" was just amazing. But yeah, the next scene we do have Mikey have this unique vision in his mind. What do you think about that scene?
I gotta say, I do agree with you with that. Like Raph's character, I don't know what it was, but something about his voice gave demanding presence. Like you know me, that specific line got to me. It's like that is like a voice of demanding and power right there. I don't understand it myself, but it was such a good line. But yeah, when they set up for camp, and of course Mikey falls asleep, he has this weird and perceptive dream about this lost, I don't know what to describe it, like a lost civilization, as if like a city under the surface. And it was just really cool how they did it. Like the scene where their layer spins around, and of course the bright white light. That was just really cool and interesting to see. And of course, Mikey comes up and he looks at this monolith in the center of the structure. My first thought was like, oh my gosh, why does that look so much like the Foot Clan? But then, of course, I came to my senses and thinking, how can the Foot Clan have a monolith structure under all this? Like, how has all of this stayed hidden for so long? But as we all know, we still don't know what exactly that vivid dream of Mikey's was, but hopefully we find out soon though.
Yeah, I mean, with this nightmare thing, I do think it looked like visually really impressive. Like, just like with the layer spin around, as you already said, and also when Mikey was walking into the thing, which you will find out in a few episodes' time, and is interesting, but at the same time, it's one of those things which even I still don't really understand what's really happening, because it's not really made too clear on what's actually happening. All I know is that it's this black cloud coming after Mikey, and I don't know if it's supposed to be symbolic to something or metaphorical to something. I've never really understood it, and it's always just felt really weird and out of place. I don't know if it's supposed to be a nightmare for Mikey, but if that's the case, then how do you know about this, like, place sort of thing? So it's one of those things that I've always found really weird for multiple different reasons, but I still don't understand it. So hopefully during this podcast, maybe able to solve that issue. I doubt it, but you never know. But then we go into the amazing bridge scene. What did you think about that scene?
Oh, that was pretty cool. That entire scene gave me Indiana Jones vibes. Like the whole movie of Indiana Jones, and of course Indiana Jones running away from the moving boulder, and the turtles running away from the boulder itself. That was just Indiana Jones all over. I just got to say it now because it just reminded me of so much of Indiana Jones. So much. And of course, I really got to love Raph's quick thinking, like cracking the whip tactic. That was pretty cool to see, as they just flip themselves up whilst the support just gives way, and they somehow magically appear unharmed on the other side. That was just really cool and a really unique action scene.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those scenes which I don't really know how to put into words, because I just love it so much, and I don't really want to just go on and ramble on and explain this whole scene again, just like you have. But I would like to give some personal reasons why I really do enjoy the scene, and this is something which you're going to be really surprised at. But this scene here, where the turtles were running and jumping over the bridge, was actually my first memory of life. I know that sounds like really weird, but that's my earliest memory. Yeah, I remember it was at my grandparents' house watching this scene, and yeah, and then as the turtles said cowabunga, me and my granddad said cowabunga. This episode does have a lot of personal reasons why I do like this one, and this whole scene is just, it's one of those ones that it's hard for me to just put into words without me explaining the reason why I like it. But yeah, I feel as though that you've understood me on a more personal level now. Okay, so before we do quickly go into the next scene, what are your opinions on the turtles with rucksacks? Because I think that looks absolutely great on them.
I gotta say, the turtles with their rucksacks, it just looks so... I'm not too sure. I really do like them with the rucksacks as they're exploring the new region and just got all their gear with them. It does look like they are proper explorers, like they've got their stuff prepared, and just those little tiny unique elements like Donnie's rucksack with the crystals, their sleeping bags on their backpacks. It just reminds me of so much exploration, and of course it's just the uniqueness, like the small little details. Those are just the exact small details that just make it so much better and so much more realistic in a sense. Like, of course, when you're exploring new regions, you would take your stuff with you, You got your duffel bags, your sleeping bags, and you got all your equipment. It just makes it so much more real.
Yeah, I have to say that the rucksack just works for this version of Turtles. And I would say that I wish that this whole show was a completely different show. It's just like an adventure type show with these turtles. That just would have been amazing. Um, okay, so yeah, we're going into the next scene. We do have the turtles accidentally go into alarm and sets off the crystal that sets off a big blue wall, and the turtles try to stop it. What do you think about that scene?
That was pretty cool, because my first thoughts were, oh my god, this is like an underground civilization. Like, this is so cool. And then, of course, my ideas came through as like, hold on a minute. How come the turtles have never found this unknown region before in the sewers? Like, how have they not found this lab before? How have they not even found these monsters before? Like, all these thoughts came into my head when I saw that lab. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. How in God's name did they not find or hear or see anything whatsoever about this, like, whole elaborate situation? Like, as we know, the lab's been there for quite a while, but how hasn't the turtles seen or heard any activity since the lab's experiments went wrong? Like, I'm just trying to understand that myself. Like, how did they not know something was down there?
Well, I mean, just because like, all that stuff was happening way before the turtles were even born. I'm just guessing because they don't really give timeline stuff in here, but I just think it's one of those things like because it happened before anything, before the turtles were even born or something like that. But I don't think the turtles would know about it. Not to mention that the monsters were like pretty far down, so I would say that there are like some exceptions to why they wouldn't know about them. But yeah, what do you think about the blue wall scene?
The force field, I really do like that. Like, I really enjoyed like the dramatic music and the sounds they use for the force field. I don't know why, but like the audio and audio development within this episode was so unique, and I just absolutely adored it. Like, I don't understand how to describe it in words, but the sound and the music was just so good. Like, it added to the scene itself. Like, the dramatic alarms, the force field, the sound of the force field, it just made it so unique, and it felt more real. And and as the audience, you could really understand what's happening in the scene. Like, there's dramatic music, there's alarms going off, there's destruction. The amount of design in audio in this episode was just so fascinating to me, and how they got all those unique sounds and elements and just made it so much better than it is.
Yeah, I mean, this scene, I don't really know what to really say to describe it. I don't think this part, I would say, this little bit here, it was good. I just don't think it was as enjoyable as probably some of the other parts of the episode. But I do think this part was still pretty enjoyable. And I must admit, I do enjoy, how this was like a new challenge for the Turtles. It wasn't just one of those things, basically, oh, Turtles just need to beat some bad guys and that'll be it. I do like how they had to think outside the box and had to do things a bit differently to win. So I really did enjoy that. Um, okay, so was you expecting the Shredder to be involved in all the monsters and the underground stuff?
Absolutely not. I had literally no idea what was going on until I just saw that symbol. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the devil did the foot get down all the way so deep into the underground without anyone noticing? And of course,
Ah,
like you
shit, here
said,
we go again.
it was before the turtles were even born. But I gotta say, like, it was so weird. I thought, oh my god, the turtles have found like a lost civilization underground. But nope, it's the Shredder, it's the Foots. Like, they're always gotta be there. Like, it's just really annoying half the time because you want to figure out, it's like, oh my god, there's an underground civilization. But nope, it's the Shredder, it's the Foot. So, just gotta deal with that now. But yeah, just seeing the Foot Clan being involved with this is like, it just opens up a whole new can of worms. Like, it opens up a huge story. Like, why were the Foot Clan down there in the first place? what's got Master Shredder so eager about to find his enemies that are underground? What's this lost civilization that they keep talking about? I want to know this stuff.
I mean, for me, I've always, I think that because I know all the context around everything that's happening in terms of like why Shredder's doing it, who he's looking for, and stuff like that, I just think for me, I do think that from a fan who's seen all of it, it's one of those things that's just like, oh my god, that's like really clever, and it's like really interesting to see how this ties into the like Shredder stuff, but then also it sets up other stuff as well for the monster stuff, and I do think that like it can be somewhat bit like, oh, not this guy again. I do think it can come off as that way because of how much they do use Shredder a lot throughout every version of Turtles. But I do also think that at the same time, because I do know also what like is happening as well, is one of those things just like, wow, I can't believe that they are really exploring everything for this version of Shredder, what he's doing and stuff like that. So I just think that from like knowing what I know is like really cool, but I can definitely see like your point. Okay, so then we do get the somewhat flashback type scenes. We're saying just like seeing how the foot people were getting these monsters ready and everything that happened with them down in the underground. What do you think about that scene?
That was my second favourite scene out of this entire episode. I just loved how they got so much information into such a short amount of time. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really did like how they documented everything about their operations going on down there. Like, I enjoyed watching the experiments. I know they were on human experimentations, but they filmed it and they're thinking this is excellent, despite the fact they're experimenting on a human being, which was just crazy. I wasn't expecting the show to take a twist that dark down that sort of path. Like, human experimentation on mutants, and that was just absolutely crazy. I was not expecting that at all. Like, they had the absolute mad idea to kidnap humans and turn them into mutants. Like, that is dark, and that is cool. And that's just an awesome, unique sort of element to the show as well. Like, these people are dangerous. They have no morals. They will do anything in their path to achieve their mission and goal, and that's just dangerous. And that just adds even more sincerity and scariness to this whole episode, because these people, they've messed with something that they shouldn't have, and now it's come to bite them back again. It's like it's just karma all over again for these people.
You have to say that with the stuff with the kidnapping of humans, I get, yeah, I love that how dark it is, and this really goes to show just what kind of person Shredder is, and I think that's like absolutely great. And I do think that this whole scene, I didn't think it was overly as enjoyable as some of the other scenes in this episode, but I do like all the context throughout it, with them like again like expanding this universe and like expanding the history. And it's also that it really did expand this whole. I would say that this whole episode has really expanded this universe in a much bigger way than the 2012 show ever did, and it's absolutely great in terms of like exploring the history, like some parts of the Foot Clan, the underground stuff. There's so much great about this stuff. The one thing which I do want to mention though, and I don't know if you noticed this, but with the foot soldiers, you know, you got that one guy who was talking, and he was fine. But then all the other foot soldiers, the ones who were bald with the grey jumpers, there was like 20 of the same guy there. Or did you notice that?
Yeah, I did notice a bit of repetition with some of the characters, but I'm thinking, Hayden, this is the Turtles. Like, they can do whatever they want. Maybe they're clones. That's what I thought. It's like, okay, I'm not going to question why they've repeated the same character. I'm just going to think of something crazier. It's like, maybe they're all clones of the same person. Something like that. I didn't question it as such, because I know that if I go into it, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So then, for the final scene, we do get to see the Turtles just walking out the building, or cave, and meeting the monsters. What do you think about that scene?
I will not lie, it was pretty cool to see the turtles finally confronting the beast one on one, mano to mano. Just seeing all the monsters in their true forms, and I'm not gonna lie, they look pretty cool, despite the fact that I'm not too sure what type of DNA they use. Like one's blue, one's red, and then of course the big guy who's a tank but he's made of stone. I'm not too sure how they managed to do it, but I really got to say these characters are certainly different and completely unique to what I've seen before. Like I thought the turtles were strange and crazy because they're turtles and they're ninjas, but these characters, my god, they take it by storm. Like these characters, they can climb walls. They got spitting acid. They can destroy stuff with a single blow. Like these characters are a turtle level threat, I gotta say.
Yeah, I think the monsters in this scene, I won't lie, it feels weird not like going straight into the next episode. I can't deny that. It feels weird just watching this one episode and not going into the next one. But I do think that having the instruction here was just perfect. Okay, so because we are doing this in a different format now, in terms of recording each episode one by one, in terms of the multi-part episodes, what do you think is going to happen in next week's episode in terms of like the actual story?
I'm not too sure, Teddy. Like, when they left it at that cliffhanger, I was so desperate to find out what happens next. Like, you have no idea. Like, my reaction to it is like, it's like, seriously? They left it at that one particular scene after we all know that they are humans underneath those skins? Like, you can't just leave something that good on a cliffhanger. Like, you just can't. But I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what's gonna happen next episode. Like, maybe they figure out how to change the monsters back into humans. Maybe they uncover more about this secret civilization that we keep hearing about. But to be honest, I have no idea. Because I thought going into this episode, it's like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. They're gonna do this, this, and this. But nope, it's completely went off the track as per usual, and it just keeps blowing my mind away. Like, so from this point on, I'm not trying to expect anything really. Like, I'm just going with the flow at this point because I am just getting absolutely blasted with information that is just out of this world.
Yeah, okay, so I must admit, I'm very jealous of your situation where you don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. I wish that I don't know anything about this show, just so that I can go into it blindly for next week's episode, but I can't. And I must admit, I'm very jealous of you, because, again, like, this is, this episode does mean a lot to me, and I absolutely love this one. I know what I do know about the next few episodes and all that. It's somewhat a bit annoying because I know that with you, you're just looking forward to it and seeing what's going to happen. Me, I'm like, yeah, next week's episode, let's go. Okay, so one final question before we do get into all the comments and stuff like that. Has this episode, like, changed your opinion on, like, the Shredder or something like that? Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a big question to ask, Teddy. Like, there's so much stuff that I could say right now, but we would have to make another episode in itself to get through this. But briefly speaking, yes, it has changed my opinion and my whole perspective on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Like, this series has certainly opened up my eyes to think, like, this isn't just about four Ninja Turtle brothers who go out fighting crime. Like, there's mystery, there's discovery, there's action, and it really has changed my mind on this show itself. And I'm just as surprised as anyone else, to be honest, really. And it's just so cool to find a unique show that has all the aspects of like mystery, action, brotherhood. It just certainly has all those elements that you don't usually get in shows now these days, which is just really, really unique. And it's like a personal element that the show brings. Like, it explores so many avenues and so many subjects. Like, it's just one of those unique shows that you don't usually come across these days.
Yeah. I must admit, I do think that this episode, if I was watching blindly, I do think that this episode would change my opinion, like, showing that Shredder is like a much darker, more like there's a lot more to Shredder than what meets the eye. Okay, yeah. So do you want to read some comments?
Let's hear them.
Okay, so yeah, this week was quite weak on comments, but I do think that's made down to this episode, just because, like I said, after this episode, it does still go downhill. So I do think that maybe some people still are reserving their comments for other episodes. So on YouTube, we got A Travis. They put, judging from a screenshot, and the picture which I used was the clip or like a scene where the turtle's running from the boulder. They put, it's tmnt, Raiders of the Lost Shrine. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy that comment.
Yes. Yes.
The Tontamont Canova, they put, well, the Underground story was never one of my favourite parts of 2003, but I feel sorry for those people who were changed into monsters. And yeah, I do feel really sorry for them for what they had to go through. On Reddit, the Nana Melinja, I'm pretty sure I said it wrong, sorry, they put, I remember this being the first big adventure arc in this series, and I had a lot of fun watching it. With this episode in particular, it served as a great intro into overall a solid arc, and set the precedent for things to come in terms of tone and pacing, storytelling, etc. I found it funny how Mikey's knowledge of monster movies was double-edged sword, helpful in including him in certain details, but also kept him terrified of what was going to happen next. Yeah, I would like to bring this up, as I thought this might be an interesting thing. Because we had definitely seen Mikey be scared of stuff in 2012 show, and I do think that with Mikey in this show, with 2012 version, I think that because of the way that he normally acts, I do think that when he gets terrified of stuff, he's not really too much different in terms of the way that he acts normally in that show. But I do think that with how he acts in this show, where he acts somewhat normal but a bit more goofier than the other characters, but you know, still quite serious. But like seeing him here that terrified, it works so well for some reason.
It really does.
Yeah. So Cole. Okay. So on Facebook, Cole Branch. Said it wrong. Sorry. They made me love the horror vibes that they had in the show. I found myself wondering, was a kid who these monsters were, as a boy, and who these monsters were, and boy oh boy did it make me feel bad for them. Trapped underground to be monsters. What more could you get? The show may have been for kids, but man, some of it didn't seem like it was. Yeah. Oh, that's another interesting thing I would want to bring up. Because I know that you like your horror stuff. What do you think about all the horror elements and vibes from this episode?
I gotta say, I really did enjoy these horror vibes. Like, I haven't experienced like a TV show that brought horror vibes in a really long time. Like, those horror vibes were definitely unique, and of course, I gotta say, like, I really did enjoy Mikey's over exaggeration on everything. Like the audience already knows what's gonna happen. It's gonna be like the cliche movie sort of situation where the first guy gets picked off, and of course the other survivors have to escape. And of course, having that exaggerated expression in the actual story itself from Mikey's perspective, it felt like the audience was going along for the ride as well, which I really did enjoy.
Yeah, I'd say that the horror elements in this episode, I don't think they're as strong and dark as the 2012 show. When they get into their horror elements, you'll definitely see a big change in terms of what they can do. But I do think that with what they do in this episode, I wouldn't say it's like overly dark. I just think it's more the dark mystery that gives the horror vibes. But I think it works really well. Carnage Akemi, they put a lot of the sound effects they use for each monster's roar. Yeah, the roar is really great. The Jodie Moneyham, I'm pretty sure I said it right. They put, and love how multiple times turning the crystals the other way. Oh yeah, that was a different thing. Wow, that's not even the same episode. Jodie Moneyham, the ending with Donnie. No, this person is talking about the wrong different thing. Jesus Christ. David Cordova. They put it was a decent episode, very middle of the road for me. I like the motion designs and the story for the first experimenting on people with the crystals. So yeah, I don't think this was a middle episode. I think this might be like a top tier episode throughout the whole show. Maybe even top top franchise, I would even say. So one person sent a picture in of a figure they have of one of the monsters, and they just put they love it, and yeah, I don't know what to respond with that, so I just put like that character is interesting. Kwan's and Panzo Jr. I know I definitely said that wrong. Sorry. They put I like how they introduced us to the underground people who came in to play later. And yeah, I must admit I just think this episode's all come at like the perfect time, really. Okay, so do you want to hear some trivia now?
Let's hear it.
Okay, so this is the first appearance of the mutant monsters. Do you want to hear their names, or do you want to wait until next week when they actually reveal their names?
I'm gonna hold up till next week on their names because I wanna know from the episode itself so I can get more of a gist of what's happening.
Okay. This is so Mikey says his 1987 counterpart catchphrase "Cowbunga" for the fourth time. When it tells runs on the road in Boulder, this may be a reference to the Indiana Jones movie. When Mikey says to Raph, "After you," you can see that there are two Mikeys. This episode began a long chain of adventures that continue to episode 34 of this show. Now, that's actually somewhat false, just because there are a few filler episodes in between, but yeah, it's all one of those things where you could arguably say that this episode, that long chain of events kind of thing happened at episode 10, so that's somewhat a bit false, and yeah. Okay, so for the cast, okay, where is it? Okay, so we've got Sam Riegel, who does Donatello, Michael Sinterklaas does Leonardo, Wayne Grayson does Michelangelo, Raphael, Frank Frankson does Raphael, Dan Dunson does Splinter, Mike Pollock does the foot scientist, as well as the TV, person. Also got the woman, or the female voice, or female assistant was done by Veronica Taylor. Okay, so who do you want to look into this week?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I'm kind of lost. Maybe the scientist guy on the TV from the recording.
Mark Pollock. He was one who did like Eggman.
Oh my god.
He did Garbage Man.
Ah. Right.
Who have we looked into?
Who
I
have
don't
we
think we've done
yet?
Leonardo. Don't look into Leonardo.
Go on then, let's look into Leonardo.
Okay, so he's voiced by Michael Sinterklaas. When was he born? Born 13th of August 1972. He's most famous for Turtles, obviously. He's been in quite a lot of stuff, I'd say, but I don't know if it's stuff that we've seen. He's been Ladybug and Cat Noir, that's quite popular. Loads of anime stuff, so that's already a lot of stuff I haven't seen already. And yeah, I think he's gonna be like one of those people that he's been in a lot of stuff that we probably haven't seen. Well, he's been in Oh yeah, this might. No, wait. Oh god, hang on, wrong person. I'm thinking of another voice actor, just Leonardo. But he was in Marvel Future's Avengers, where he plays Maximus. I guess that's cool. God, yeah, there's very little he's really been in that we've really seen. Dragon Ball, Xenoverse 2, Care Bears and Cousins, Christ, yeah, he's not been, the Marvel Experience, I don't know what that is, but he did the voice of Iron Fist in that. Whew. Lego
Yeah, a lot of
Lego Movie
anime.
video game. He did the additional voices there. Yeah, I think he's going to be another one of those people that he's been in a lot of stuff that we haven't really seen. Somewhat disappointing, but yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
found one. I found one. Five Nights at
yeah.
Freddy's. He played as Bonnie's voice character.
Is that a famous character in the Five Nights at Freddy universe?
Yeah, Bonnie's one of the animatronics in the Five
Oh.
Nights at Freddy's franchise, and yeah, it's I really didn't know that. Like, yeah, Michael was the voice of Bonnie in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, it's also been Pokemon as well, but yeah, I think he's another one that he's been in a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, it's just stuff that we've not really seen. Unfortunately, okay, yeah. So one final thing we want to find out before we do go into the next section of this little podcast. Okay, so for next week's episode is called Notes from the Underground Part 2. I don't think we really need to go into ask you what's gonna happen next week's episode or stuff like that because we've already gone over that. But who do you think is gonna start the episode off?
I'm gonna say Mikey again because Mikey started off this episode, and I think Mikey's gonna continuously introduce the episodes because he's like one of the main scared characters. That's what I'm going off across, but who knows?
Yeah, you're wrong. It's Donatello.
Oh, come on!
I mean, you can sort of get a point, I guess. I mean, Mikey does have a little line in it, but that's only because it was like from a line from this episode. So I don't think that really counts. So I guess you kind of got a point, but at the same time, he doesn't do the main introduction. But yeah, but yeah. Do you have anything else to say about this episode, or are you all done with this one?
This episode overall was just really, really cool and amazing to watch. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this episode. This episode has just opened up a whole new mystery in this series alone. Like, opens up the story behind the mutants, the Shredder, the Foot, the scientist, this lost civilization. There's a lot more going on underneath New York than we first expected. And I want to know more.
Yeah, I have to say that this whole episode, for me, like I've already mentioned, like some stuff that like made this episode like really great and personal for me, and I must admit I do love that. And I just don't think there's like a single bad thing about this episode. I mean, I must admit there are like a few things in this one that's just like, that's not as good as some parts, such as the flashback scenes and also the blue wall thing. Yeah, it was okay. It just wasn't out all the other scenes. And I do think that the nightmare scene with Mikey was... I still don't really enjoy it all too much as I don't really understand it. But I must admit, everything... Well, I mean, must admit, all the other scenes other than those ones, they're just perfect. I can't put into words just how amazing this one is. And I must admit, every time I do go back to watch this episode more and more, it just reminds me just how amazing this whole episode is. And I must admit, I do think I should put it a lot higher on like so many more lists, such as like the like best episode from the show and season, and even just Tales overall. I'd say that this is like a top 10 worthy episode. It's just that perfect. But
100%.
yeah. So yeah, if you want to get onto the podcast, you can leave a comment on the YouTube community post. You can leave it on the Reddit post, the Facebook post. I think that's about it. Also Anchor as well. You can also leave a voice or a text message and read it out. But yeah, I've been your host Teddy,
And I've been Hayden.
and we'll see you soon. Goodbye, yo, bye.
Bye.